Hello everyone, I am back and I'm here to show you what's been going on with my little $99 Creality Ender-3 Pro 3D printer. So this thing has been running virtually non-stop since I bought it, and I've had very few failures. A lot of the failures are due to user error or file issues. So you can see I started off with the pinkish, it looked purple in the package. I honestly thought it was just pure purple. It looked a lot darker. But anyway, it's pink and I needed to use it anyway. I took this thing out of the box, used all the defaults, didn't change anything, and this is what I've gotten out of it. Now, some of the later ones I did do what's called I think it's super fast print or something like that, settings from a website called, or a YouTube channel called Filament Friday. I've had great luck with it. It's obviously not as good as the slower, more accurate printing, but the time is cut at least in half and sometimes down to a fourth. What I've done to help is there's a thing called ironing, a setting called ironing, that goes back over what it's put down on the top surfaces or the external surfaces, and then goes back over it with the heated head, putting out only like 10% of the filament to fill in the low spots. I'm absolutely happy with those results, especially, like I said, with the ironing on, it's about half of the time it would print normally. So I've gone from 3 to 4 days to print something down to anywhere from a couple hours to a day and a half. All right, so I have several models, 3D models that I actually bought. And so I printed them. This is one of them. A lot of them are Art Deco cars. This one is I 3D scanned a C8 model that I put clay over to kind of get the general shape to see what it was going to look like. The next one is a downloaded model. Let's see, and this was done in normal mode. So you can see some of the artifacts that show up. They're not as bad as they look on video because the light reflects. But anyway, the next one, I just printed this one the other day. I decided it'd be nice to have a C8 since my body kits are going on C8 chassis. I thought it would be nice to have just a plain old C8. This was done in the fast print. I just needed the shape. I didn't care about the looks of it except for the top part. So it looks, oh, and I haven't finished pulling there. I haven't finished pulling all the supports off. This is what it looks like with the supports pulled off. So again, the surface finish is a little bit rough, but those panels are going to get covered by my new panels. So it doesn't matter what they look like now because they won't be seen. This is one of my new designs. This printed exactly like I wanted it to as a shell. I haven't quite figured out how to always consistently get a shell, but this one did that. I printed it without the wheels so that it would take less time to print, because otherwise with the wheels it would stand up and then there would have to be supports underneath. So I decided not to do that. Now, ideally this would fit over that. This body would. You can see that's not going to happen. So the designer missed that. I'm going to go in, split it down the middle, spread it out. It's obviously not nearly as tall in the back. It's off by quite a bit there. But I wanted something to go with. I've hired another designer specifically to redesign that and make it fit. The next one is a different body design, similar but different than the other one. And this is the one that, if you've been following my my Facebook page, it's the blue model. Something's wrong with the model. It looks good in 3D. It looks good when I load it into the slicer, but when I slice it, body panels just vanish. And one of the things I've learned is whatever the slicer says it's going to do, it's going to do. So if a body panel vanishes, that's what's going to happen. So I've been using the tree support lately. It's real easy to move, and it basically creates a lightweight shell over everything. Well, a lot of what you're seeing is just the shell. There is no body panel. I suspect it's because the parts in the model must have 0 thickness, and you can do that in a 3D model and in the animation type stuff that they do for videos and such. So that's, I think, what the issue is. I'm still working with that. I've been working with that for days, actually weeks, trying to get it resolved. Still haven't got it resolved. I am currently printing one now that I went in, and I think I have it fixed, but I'm not sure. This model to the left and that one should be the same dimensions because they're both going over that car. So you can see how far off this one is from what it should be. So like I said, splitting this one down the middle and then spreading it out will help significantly, potentially, to get that to fit. And you can see if I put this on top of here, it still won't quite work, but at least it's a lot closer. All right. So what I want to do is I want this to have a good solid model of this like I do of this one. And once again, I'll split it, cut it, however I have to section it, put it over this with the body panels removed, the C8 body panels removed, and then see what's going to work and what's not going to. The next model is, I actually scanned my C8 with the body panels removed. So the front fenders, the hood, the front end, the side panels, I actually cut that out because that area is going away. It kept complaining about it not being watertight, so I went into Microsoft's 3D Builder and said, make it watertight. And what it did was it took the parts that I had left that were in the scan and said, oh, I see an edge right here. I see an edge, let's see if this, there we go, right here at this fender. So I'm just going to make a flat panel. On the actual car, there's nothing here until the part underneath. I was actually hoping, because it's in the 3D model, that it would print the stuff underneath and I could just cut this open. But you can see that it decided that, hey, if there's nothing underneath there, then there's no point in printing it. So it did help with print time, but it also didn't give me exactly what I wanted. The key here is there is a radiator right here on this body panel, and this vent right here has to cover that radiator. I suspect that the radiator is going to stick out somewhere in the middle of here, so obviously that would not be visually pleasing. So that's what I need to do, is figure out how much does that fender need to be changed. So this is basically this model here with the body panels actually removed. If you look at the front, it is the body panels removed. And I might have done this in a fast print. I don't remember. It's been a while. And so what you're seeing here is actually these parts of the car that are underneath the hood and the fenders and the front end. And so this one will be, if I finally get this one to print as a shell, I can cut this front piece off and see if it slides over this. And some of this stuff can be removed. I already know, like this, it can be cut, let's see, we're straight across here. So anyway, that will help me know. One of the issues is that this back area, again, if it wouldn't have printed, it filled that in, it shouldn't have. There's actually a lot of space back there. The back edge I want to keep because I don't want to have to go to every car and cut the hatch or the trunk and redo the seal, and because it involves a lot of extra work. So what needs to happen is something needs to make sure that this corner right here and this corner right here doesn't protrude, and that's the point of this back area being as tall as it is, and potentially this wing. So if I put this on here without the wing and this corner and that corner stick out, I will then add a wing to this literally just to cover up those two corners. All right, the next one is, if I'm not mistaken, this one was done in the fast print with a ironing done afterwards. It's obviously not perfect, but again, all of this is just to see what fits and what doesn't. What I'm doing is I am converting a C8 into a Grand Sport style car. So what I need to do is get these parts off and figure out. You can see that the hood's much longer on this car. You can see significantly longer. So what I need to do is make the hood shorter. And that would, you can see where the wheels are relative to each other. If I turn this on its side, turn this on its side, and you can see that it would almost work right there. Pretty close, but the front end's too short. So I don't think, obviously I can't cut off that much off the front end. So I've got to figure out where do I make the compromise in the shape of this. Also, the hood itself on this one, on the C8, is a lot shorter. If you just look at hood distance, you can see that this is a big difference. So I do want this, the scoop, the vents, the hood scoop and the vents. So I'm thinking I might have to shorten it this way, possibly narrow it. I don't think I'll have to narrow it. But you can see, oh, here we are. Slide everything over. You can see that the hood shape is completely different between this one, angles in drastically. What I realized after, I already converted a C8 into a C2 without it being a Grand Sport. And what I did was I kept this hood shape on the conversion. In hindsight, and that's because my goal was to use the exact same landing points. In hindsight, what I should have done was I could go ahead and use the mounting points, but underneath this thing should be L-shaped, and then it should come out to where it can use the same shape of hood as this. This has that strange W shape here in the front of the hood. And at first I said, I don't care. Now that I've looked at it, it does detract from the look. So what I'm going to do is square this off like this. Again, that's the issue, is it looks like this hood is so much shorter, but the distance from the wheels to the peak is similar. But what makes it look shorter is this one has this curved shape. So from the side, it looks like there's very little distance between the front of the car and the wheel. Well, in actuality, it's a lot like this one, where there's more distance than you think there is. All right, this one right here is one of the failures on the printer, but it was my fault. It ran out of filament. So this is this exact model. As soon as it printed overnight and it ran out of filament. So the next morning I literally got up, reloaded, new filament, and this one printed nonstop. I've got some other things. There's a toothpaste squeezer right here. Here's another one that I did. The handle didn't work quite like we wanted, so I went ahead and reprinted another one. The issue is this one, the hole in the handle didn't go all the way through, and so the end of the tube kept coming off. This right here is a model. It's the scan of my C2 that I made out of the C8. The 3D model would not convert from a scan to a good model. It looks okay on the screen, but when it printed, it did the same thing the other one did. There were pieces missing. So there's actually part of this, and then the other part fell over. So that's a partial print. Again, it's a model problem, not a printer problem. This is what the side looked like. I went ahead and cut off the side here. I think it was, yeah, this side. And then reprinted just the side. So this is the part that fell off in front of it, but you can see that it's really thin. Again, I need to go back in and work with the model, but I am not an expert in the tools to do that yet. But I have no choice but to do that. All right, the next thing is the Modex printer. I've been fighting with it for months and months. So it crashed into the part. This is the part that it crashed into. What happened is it didn't stick to the bed. And so as it printed, it warped. This end came up and the head crashed into it. It broke the thing called a BL Touch that senses where the table is so it doesn't crash into it. It broke the tip off of that. Come to find out they're replaceable. I now have the replacement part, so I've got to go back and repair everything. The other thing is the vent on it was kind of rigged. I took the vent for I changed the hot end and the extruder to an upgraded model that can do better, do more from the one that came. And I had cut the end off of it, so it was blowing some coolant on there, but not like it should. So I just went off to Thingiverse, and on the Modix group, somebody said, hey, here's the one that you can just print. So there it is. So I will install this when I make that same upgrade, because not only the vent that's on there, or duct, and the touch and the head all crashed into this part right here. All right, let's see. Then, just last night, I printed this. This is a spool reel. One of the issues is that the Modix printer keeps stopping extruding after about 5 hours into a print. It may be heat creep, but what I'm doing here is making it to where it's easier for it to pull on the spool. So that's what this is. This again came off of, I think, Thingiverse or something like that. This printed last night. I think it might have been a 15-hour print. This is multiple pieces that snapped together. Whoever designed it did a great job of it. There's actually wheels that go in between there to make this easier to spin, but you can see that if I hold it still, it's not flat on the bottom. I don't know why that is, but it spins really easily. If I do that, you can see that. So, and that's without the wheels. If I put the wheels on there, it'll spin even easier. They need cleaning up. They were on the bottom, so they had a brim there to help it stick to the bed. And I need to sand that down before I put the wheels on. But even like this, I think it'll be really good. This is another print that failed on the Modix printer. It got to this point and then it just plain stopped extruding. So again, I'm still trying to find out what's causing that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to print another one of these because I know this prints straight out of the box like it's supposed to. No issues. So I'm going to try to print this on the Modix printer with the new fast printing and see what I get. I think the estimate was it would take 6 hours to print this. I'll have to look it up. I've got so many different G-code files out there. All right, that's where I'm at. The other thing is this is a piece to tell when it stops extruding. It's got a little reluctor wheel and a sensor right there, and it plugs in, and the filament goes through here and does that. And as long as it sees that the filament is still pulling, it will go. As soon as it stops pulling, it stops. That way I can stop it, figure out what's wrong, and then continue the print. Whereas right now, it doesn't know that it stopped extruding, so it just goes to the end, and there's no way to recover like on that one. I could have stopped it. If it would have stopped, I could have figured out why it's not extruding, fixed that, and then got it to continue. But as it was like at least an inch above the printed surface, and it had been going for hours thinking it was actually printing when in fact the extruder wasn't extruding. One of the issues is the way this is made. There's no easy way to mount it because whoever worked on the printer before me moved the spool and all of that. So anyway, I couldn't figure out why he took this off, and I think the reason he took it off is he was having the exact same problems I was, that it stopped extruding. So he said, oh, I'm going to get rid of anything that adds extra tension onto the filament as it comes through. This does add tension. I mean, it is harder to pull when it goes through this than when it doesn't. I don't know if there's an adjustment on this to lessen that. I will look at that. I couldn't find any instructions on this or on the internet, so I need to look at that and figure out, is there a way to lessen that? I don't know. Something I need to look into. But what can happen is there was no way to mount this, but now I have this spool holder, so I'm thinking I can somehow figure out a mount to mount this. Again, I don't know which direction. There's no instruction at all with this, so I don't know which direction it's supposed to go. But what I could conceivably do is make a plate and mount this right in front of there, so as soon as it comes off the spool, it goes through this, and it will ensure that it still is extruding like it's supposed to. All right, that's where I'm at now. I am printing a duplicate of this. I spent days each time getting where I think I'm a little bit closer to a model, 3D model that will print, but then when I put it in the slicer, it still does the same thing. It's still parts of it vanish. This last time, I think I've got something that's going to work, but it's going to take a day, I think a day and a half. And again, I did it with the fast print and the ironing so that I will get something that looks surface-wise similar to this, which is more than enough for cutting it up. Again, I have to make multiples of these, so I'm more interested in speed than absolute finish on it. All right, that's all I've got for now. So I'll update you, and like, subscribe, hit the alert, hit the thanks if you want to donate. And if you don't like what I'm doing, you don't know Jack. Bye.